Hey there, Horse Center fans. Matt and I are back with another exciting edition of the show. Matt, this week we're talking about two-year-olds with an eye on next year's Kentucky Derby.
We got two official Kentucky Derby prep races this weekend. On Friday, the Springboard Mile at Remington Park, and then the Los Alpha Futurity. That's not easy for me to say, on Saturday.
Yeah, plus we got some interesting horses who looked awfully good in their career debuts. Watch it all right now here on Horse Center. Welcome to another edition of Horse Center, everyone. I am Brian Zipsy, and as always, I have the extra special pleasure of being joined by my co-host to the East Coast. That's Matt Schiffman. How are you today, Matt?
Oh, I'm a little tired already, Brian. I've been outside shoveling snow. It's snowing like crazy here in New Jersey. Racing is canceled at Aqueduct. Oh, here we go.
Hey, pull it together, Matt. We have a show to do, and it's an exciting show because we try to give the people what they want, Matt, and as always, they want to talk about the exciting prospects on the road to the Kentucky Derby. We're talking about 2021 Kentucky Derby now. And Matt, I want to start off with some super debut performances we've seen since we got out our early Kentucky Derby list in November. There's been a gaggle of big debut winners, but we picked out our three favorites to highlight. This Kentucky Derby watch never ends, Matt. Let's start out west. I'm going to give you three words that you've been saying for a long time. Life is good.
That's for sure, Brian. That's you and I. We always say that, particularly when times are tougher. Life is good. Out west, I guess I don't have to name the trainer. But
go ahead.
But Life is Good broke his maiden at Del Mar, came out of the gate like a bat out of hell.
I thought he looked awfully good all the way around, Matt. This was a fast 6.5 furlongs at Del Mar back in late November. 6.5 furlongs. I think he ran in 1:15 and 2/5. He won off by 9.5 lengths. Matt, the secret was out on Life is Good before the race, the son of Into Mischief, because he went off at odds of 1-5 for his debut.
Yeah, 20 cents to the dollar. And the team of Bob Baffert and Mike Smith were reunited for this special son of Into Mischief. And he flew out of the gate like no Mike Smith horse that I've seen before, and threw up fractions of 21 and change, 44 and change. Obviously, the race was over right out of the gate.
Yeah, and he just coasted down the stretch. Like I said, 1:15, and he won by 9.5 lengths. And the fact that Mike Smith was on this unraced maiden, and that he was 1-5 there at Del Mar. He wasn't 1-5 at some podunk track somewhere, Matt. 1-5 in a debut. It's not usually good value on a horse who's never run a race, but obviously the secret was out, and Life is Good looked awfully good winning his maiden. It'll be interesting to see. He's not entered in the Los Al Futurity, which came back a little quick maybe from that debut performance. But I imagine we will see this horse in stakes performances soon. And again, Mike Smith on him at 1-5 for his debut. Obviously, this horse has a lot of buzz, and his debut performance did nothing to slow down the buzz. Matt, a $525,000 yearling at Keeneland last fall. Now, the next horse we're going to talk about also sold in the fall at Keeneland last year as a yearling, but he sold for $900,000. Matt, I know you liked what you saw from the son of Quality Road named Prime Factor, and you're a math guy anyway, so.
That's right. Oh, that was a big part of when I was an Algebra 1 teacher, for sure. Todd Pletcher horse, I think the same ownership group as Life is Good, West Coast, East Coast at Gulfstream Park. This one came out of the gate nicely, not as quickly as Life is Good, but took control of the race fairly quickly and drew off to win by almost 9 lengths.
Yeah. I guess it was 8 3/4 and 110 and change for his 6 furlong debut. Now this just happened last Saturday at Gulfstream Park, folks. So this is a newer debut winner. But people have been buzzing all week about what they saw from Prime Factor in that 8 3/4 length win in his unveiling at Gulfstream Park. And life is good. A son of into mischief, 525,000. Baffert, no surprise there. But Quality Road, not that Quality Road hasn't been a very good sire in his first half dozen years or so, but 900,000 for a Quality Road, that tells you that they saw something in this colt, and we definitely saw something in his maiden race at Gulfstream. Nothing planned yet, but it makes sense that he'll stay down in South Florida with the top Pletcher string and look to stakes races probably in Florida, although Pletcher will venture out to Oaklawn Park and places like that as well. So Prime Factor, would you call him the top prospect from the Todd Pletcher barn so far?
I think at this point, yes, in terms of potential and what's to come. He looked like a horse that has stuff to learn. Looks like a horse that was having a lot of fun when he was running. He was kind of swishing his tail and enjoying himself in that race.
Yeah, Life is Good, certainly one for fun. Prime Factor did as well. Prime Factor's out of a Bernardini mare. So Quality Road out of a Bernardini mare, you would expect 2 turns to be no problem for the Prime Factor, Pletcher's new star, debut winner last Saturday, Matt. I want to mention one more horse who also debuted last Saturday, and this came at a slightly less predictable place, but I loved what I saw with Manor House. I remember his sire Upstart early on, and I thought Upstart was going to be good, and he was good, but maybe not quite to the extent that I thought he could be when I saw him early on. And Manor House, Mike Stidham trained debut 2-year-old on Saturday at Laurel Park, reminded me of his sire, and that's a good thing when he won his debut performance Saturday at Laurel.
Yeah, and maybe Upstart's turning out to be a better sire than he was a racehorse, because he's already thrown several really nice horses, and this is one of them. I don't know, maybe the word wasn't quite out as much about Manor House as the first two that we talked about, and maybe that was because Stidham trains at Fair Hills Training Center and he's not on the racetrack and as many people around, etc. But as impressive a first out winner as you can see when he won his race by 12 lengths.
Yeah, 12 1/4 lengths, Matt. He ran the mile at Laurel in 1:38. Not super time, but at Laurel 1:38 this time of year certainly is nothing to worry about. He won for absolute fun too, as he just opened up early in the stretch and then coasted home late. Stidham, I don't think I remember Stidham when I was up at Arlington Park. Stidham's not one to throw big adjectives around. He simply said after the race of the 4-1 second choice, he kind of ran the way we thought he would. So obviously the barn really liked what they saw training at Fair Hill, as you mentioned, and this horse just exploded with that 12 1/4 length win at Laurel. He's already on his way to New Orleans, Matt, and the Lecomte, which is the first 3-year-old prep down at Fairgrounds, is in the middle of January. So we might see this horse who debuted last Saturday at Laurel come back within about a month to run in the Lecomte. The good thing about Manor House, maybe as opposed to the other two more high-profile, Baffert, Pletcher, Gulfstream Park, Del Mar debut winners, is he's already been a mile. So he's already stretched out a little bit on the way. So 3 horses, Matt, that really looked good in their debut performance recently. As we said, this was after our first Kentucky Derby list came out. These are all 3 horses we'll have our eye on. Matt, of the 3, who's your favorite right now?
I'm going to go with Prime Factor for Pletcher. I just also want to note that Manor House is the kind of horse that when they throw up big performances like that, maybe for less known connections, the phone starts ringing in those barns with the owner and the trainer, where people like to try and buy into or buy horses like this. So it'll be interesting to see next time out if there's a change in ownership for Manor House.
Yeah, and this was a horse who was never sold at auction yet, but Matt's right. I'm sure there's some big offers coming or already down for the son of Upstart, who won by a dozen lengths or more at Laurel Park. All right, Matt, those are our three up-and-coming Superstar debut winners, but let's talk about the races at hand. We got 2-year-old races with Kentucky Derby points on the line. Let's start out west. The Los Al Futurity only drew 6. I was on to Red Flag last time in the Bob Hope. I cashed some tickets. He was 10-1 when he won the Bob Hope off for fun. He won't be 10-1 this time.
No, good for you, Brian Zipsy, getting 10-1 on that horse, because he certainly is not going to be 10-1. He's probably going to be closer to 1-1 even money than anywhere near a price where he wouldn't be the favorite. Got a field of 6, as you mentioned. Red Flag looked impressive, winning his last race. He's got a maiden special weight. Then he won the Bob Hope. Connections that we all know, John Sheriffs and Jerry Moss, the famed connections of Zenyatta, opted to supplement Red Flag into this race for $7,500. Money is no issue for that owner for sure, but an interesting move. In the Bob Hope, there were 4 horses across the track down the back stretch heading into the turn, and by the time they were coming out of the turn, there was only Red Flag on top. I don't know if that was an indication of the quality of Red Flag, or that those other 3 were quitting, or a combination of both.
Yeah, he looked good to me. John Sheriff's. I was on a John Sheriff's early this year, and it didn't quite pan out. Although Honor AP still feel could have been a really, really, really good horse, but of course he was retired after a troubled 4th in the Kentucky Derby. Now he's got Red Flag. I have to like him a little bit after liking him in the Bob Hope and winning off by 7 lengths. This is a new track, a new distance. He's never been farther than the Bob Hope, which was 7 furlongs. So he's got to stretch out to a mile and 16th on Saturday at Los Alamitos, and he drew the rail. Having said all that, I like him. I think he's a horse with a ton of potential. You said he showed a lot of speed to be right up there on the outside in the Bob Hope, but before that, he came from the clouds to win his maiden race on the turf. So I think there's some versatility there, both in running style and an ability to get different surfaces, meaning that he's got some class. So I can't really bet him against him suddenly as the favorite here in the Los Al Futurity. One of the horses he beat in there was a heavy favorite, and his name is Spielberg, Matt. And the son of Union Rags was odds on there, but faded to 4th. Obviously, he didn't run his race, dropping down in distance to 7 furlongs after winning a 1-mile maiden at Del Mar. The reason I'm talking about Spielberg quite a bit is, even though he's 1 for 5 and he hasn't lived up to expectations yet, his trainer, Bob Baffert, has won this race 12 times, Matt. He's won this race 6 years in a row.
Yeah, Brian, I was just going to throw that out there. And I don't know, maybe he's got his work cut out for him to continue that winning streak in this edition of the Los Al Futurity. Typically these horses for Baffert that come out earlier, and we're talking about Spielberg that's already got four races to his credit, are not his best. And I do have to mention, in conjunction with Life is Good that we talked about at the top of the show, that when I was preparing for the show, when I was looking at the nominations for this Los Al Futurity, I was struck by the fact that there were about 10 unraced Bob Baffert, superbly bred, high-profilely owned 2-year-olds nominated for that race, which kind of tells me, Brian, that I don't think we've seen the best of the Bob Baffert Kentucky Derby contenders yet.
Yeah, maybe Life is Good is the best. It doesn't look like Spielberg to this point, 1 for 5 in his career so far. But I think maybe stretching out, he's got a better shot here in the Los Al Futurity if he can relax off that lead a little bit. He didn't really like being down fighting for the lead in the 7 furlong Bob Hope. So still a horse to watch out for. But clearly, I'm going to go out on a limb, Matt, and say clearly Baffert's weakest Los Al Futurity chance in a long time. Amazing record for the Hall of Fame trainer in this race. Another one I think that we should talk about, or we need to talk about, and looking at the Los Al Futurity, comes from the barn of Richard Mandella. Richard Mandella won the Hollywood Futurity. I think it was called the Cash Call Futurity back then in 2007 with a promising young colt named Into Mischief. We, of course, know Into Mischief has become one of America's top sires. His son is trained by Richard Mandella. His name is Petruchio, Matt. And Petruchio took 4 races to win his maiden, but I like the progression. I like the fact that he's run well in each race and he's gotten better in each race. He comes in off a turf win.
Yes, that's for sure. And I think I noticed also, interestingly, that Petruchio is a gelding. So interesting. And Richard Mandella is, again, a trainer who is careful with his horses. So it's noteworthy that he does have 4 races already. So he'll need to, in my opinion, continue that progression if he's going to be able to beat Red Flag, but certainly one to choose for maybe the second spot.
Yeah, and I don't think this is a particularly strong edition of the Los Al Futurity. Other than possibly Red Flag. We'll wait and see how good Red Flag turns out to be. But I think Petruchio probably has found himself a grade 2 race that he can contend in coming out of maiden races, because those maiden performances where he was third, second, and then first are pretty good. No problem switching back to dirt, and he's a horse who probably will be just fine at the mile 16th distance. So he might be the one that Red Flag most has to beat here in the Los Al Futurity. I do want to mention one other horse in here, Matt. He's a nice Calbred, and his name is Positivity. Positivity. We don't know for sure if the son of Painter can step up to open company, as he's only run against Calbred so far in his career. But I like that he won his debut. He won his second race, which was a State Bred Stakes race months ago. Then he had a layoff as he moved to New Connections. And I thought his race where he came back again last time to be second in another State Bred Stakes was pretty good. I wouldn't throw out Positivity completely in this Los Al Futurity.
Yeah, I agree, Brian. I wouldn't throw him out either, and I guess I wouldn't throw out the 4-horse Weston also, who's the son of Hit It a Bomb, who we remember his sire from a few years ago in the Breeders' Cup, Hit It a Bomb, won his maiden special weight, came back and won the Best Pal, a grade 3, and finished third in the Del Mar Futurity. Not a Kentucky Derby winner here, but I think he's another one that can contend for the Exacta.
Yeah, and Painter has already sired some interesting horses, so maybe this one can contend, as I said, in a Los Al Futurity that doesn't look all that deep. Matt, I'm on Red Flag. I can't get off him now. I think he's got potential to be very good. Again, the son of Tamara Cruz did so well in the Bob Hope, but this time, unfortunately, he'll be a heavy favorite. Are we on the same horse here in the Los Al Futurity?
Yeah, I don't think there's any choice but to put Red Flag as my top pick. And I'm going to use that horse that I just mentioned, Weston, as my second choice.
Yeah, Weston should be on the lead, and he's the only other horse who's a graded stakes winner, but not sure if he wants a mile and 16th, unless he can get a lead to himself on Saturday. Before that, though, Friday night at Remington Park in Oklahoma, we have the Springboard Mile, who's produced some pretty good horses over the years. And this $200,000 2-turn 1-mile race drew a very contentious field, a pretty good-sized field, and I think it's a wide-open field. It looks like, Matt, to me, the turf horses could go favorite. Outador and Cohen, both coming from different Breeders' Cup races where they ran very well. But switching back to dirt, I see this as a very wide-open affair.
Oh, I agree with you, Brian. 11 horses entered, wide open. Most of the field are horses that have been running at Remington Park. Got a few coming from other tracks, but yeah, 11 in this race. Springboard Mile, as you mentioned, $200,000. It's a race that has had some good fields, maybe is on its way finally to becoming a grade 3 next year. Interesting field. We've got 3 of them in the race, I think, that came out of the local prep for the Springboard Mile, the Clever Trevor.
Yeah. There's some horses with stakes experience over the over the local track there. Game day play might be the best of them, but of the local horses, I think number 1 Dude has looked very good as he's kept his undefeated record going into the Springboard Mile, and then maybe Senor Bucador can pick up horses because he rallied nicely in his debut performance. Let's get back to the turf horses really quick. Outador, son of Outwork, he should be able to handle the dirt, but he's been a turf horse so far for trainer Wesley Ward. He's a stakes winner already, Kentucky Downs, and then he ran a very good third in a pretty tough Breeders' Cup turf race. I think he may be the horse to beat, but first time dirt for Outador, Matt.
Yeah, and throw in there that he did break his maiden at Saratoga. So in another quality race, is certainly has probably been running against better horses than except for the other turf horse, better horses. But again, this is Wesley Ward. Again, it's a question mark of, now he's going to dirt for the first time. Is it just Ward saying, hey, I'm going to take a shot here, see maybe this horse likes the dirt, and I've got myself a Kentucky Derby horse, but possibly going to be the favorite, and that doesn't thrill me.
Right. I want to try to beat the favorites in here as well, and I'm going to try to beat Outador, but like you said, I think the class edge is in his favor. Cowan rallied nicely as a long shot behind Golden Pal in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint. So that son of Canteros, trained by Steve Asmussen, certainly is another horse with class on his side, and he has some dirt experience. Cowan is another one that you have to watch out for. They both drew a little bit on the outside, as have some of the other interesting horses shipping in to Oklahoma. Brad Cox has Joe Frazier, Jolton Joe Frazier, and then Asmussen has another horse in here named Safa's Day. And Safa's Day, I think, is an interesting 10-1 shot on the morning line.
Yeah, Safa's Day is by Carpe Diem, was a debut winner of his maiden special weight at Keeneland, so good dirt experience, but then came back to run 6th in the Nyquist Stakes behind some really good horses. The horse that won that race, is a pretty top prospect for Chad Brown going forward. So, I'm not real keen on that Asmussen.
Okay, yeah, I like that one a little bit better. I think he can probably find a little drop in overall class here to some extent. I think that race won by Highly Motivated was tough and fast early, and he backed out. But I think third race, this is a distance race, Matt. I consider it a distance race anyway because it's 1 mile. It's around 2 turns there at Remington Park. So I'm looking for horses who can step up but also handle the distance. I don't want to be on the turf horses either. So I am looking at Safa's Day a little bit. I'm also looking at the horse I talked about earlier, Senor Buscador, a local winner at Remington Park. It's possible long shots in the Springboard Mile. Who have you landed on in here?
Yeah, I can't go with those turf horses in here. I mean, Brian, we could be completely wrong, and those turf horses are going to run 1-2. If so be it. I'm going to end up with a couple of prospects from trainers who are absolutely always dangerous in important races. So I like Joe Frazier a little bit, son of Distorted Humor. Should like the distance, but I think my top pick is going to be the number 6 Game Day Play for Brett Calhoun, who has shown the ability to race from off the pace in the past. 10-1 on the morning line. I don't know if we'll get that. Son of Violence. We're not sure with these Violence horses who are running so well early on how they're going to do with the extra distance, but I'm going to take a shot with my top pick, Game Day Play, and then Joe Frazier.
Yeah, Game Day Play has proven himself over the Remington Park track after coming from Lone Star there in Texas. So certainly a threat in here. Joe Frazier, I may have liked better than anyone, but I don't like that outside draw in his third race. His form reminds me a little bit of Safa's Day in that he won his debut and then faded a bit last time in a tough allowance race at Churchill Downs. But another threat, wide open race, folks. Wide open race at Remington Park. That's the Springboard Mile Friday night in Oklahoma. All right, Matt, that was our rundown of the 2-year-olds as we look ahead to the Kentucky Derby. Maybe Red Flag is the one to keep an eye on most, but there's a bunch of interesting horses in both races, the Los Alfuturity and the Springboard Mile, as there will be coming back at Fairgrounds on Saturday. Matt, we finally get to see Maxfield make his 4th lifetime race for the Tenacious. I know you've been looking forward to the return of the Godolphin homebred Maxfield.
I absolutely am, Brian, because he has shown nothing but quality in his first 3 races that were victories. And let's just hope that he comes back to the track in that same form, and that he's going to be able to stay on the racetrack for a little bit longer than in the past. With the holidays coming up and then the new year, we're going to see plenty more of these debuting 2-year-olds of note that Brian and I will keep you up to date on as the year goes on, and then the Derby preps will continue on with more regularity.
Absolutely. We look forward to Maxfield Saturday, coming back, his first race since the Matt win months ago. So Maxfield coming back. Matt, we also want to say goodbye to a couple of horses who just passed away this week, and one of them very near and dear to my heart. Awesome Again was a wonderful racehorse and an absolutely wonderful sire. I always thought he was a little underrated. It's really one of North America's top sires over the last 2 decades, I guess. Awesome Again passed away at the age of 26, and Tapazar, unfortunately, had a stall accident, and he was a much younger horse. I believe he was 12. Both Breeders' Cup winners. Tapazar, we say goodbye to him as well this past week. So a little sad note to end the show. Matt, can I get a quick parting shot from you, or did you already give it to me?
Yeah, I think I did. And remember, we got to meet Tapazar, Brian, when we visited Gainesway Farm on a chilly spring day a few years ago. Yeah,
the sire of Monomoy Girl. Folks, as always, we want to thank you for watching each week. We sure do appreciate it here. We enjoy putting on the show for you. If you haven't yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, hit that little red button for us. I also want to thank our great producer and friend, Brett Workman, for putting together the show. And our sponsor, the best contest site out there, that's Derby Wars. Folks, next week we will be back with a big show because opening day at Santa Anita is the day after Christmas. We'll be talking about things like the Malibu, maybe the return of Charlton. That's what we're expecting. Charlton against Nashville, that's not bad. The La Brea, the San Antonio. So don't miss our holiday show next week right here on Horse Center.